My dad was just of that generation where it's just like, he was Clint Eastwood, less is more. Simple grunts is how he communicated.
People care so much more about your personal life than they do your work, and if you aren't open with your personal life, then they just make it up for you and share it for you.
Hi, this is Macy. Ryan Reynolds, who was always seen as Marvel's shining comedic force, an actor whose portrayal of Deadpool redefined the boundaries of superhero storytelling, faced a dramatic change in circumstances. The studio, in an unexpected and rather shocking move, reportedly cut ties with Reynolds. They cited a complex web of behind-the-scenes turmoil, issues intricately linked to actions. This turmoil was also entangled with and heavily influenced by Blake Lively's actions and alleged misrepresentations. For many, the decision signaled one of the most unexpected and impactful shifts in recent Hollywood memory. The seeds of this extraordinary drama were sown months before, though few recognized the implications at the time. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like to show your support. We would also love to know your thoughts, so make sure to drop them in the comments section.
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
Were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, I got snot coming out of my nose.
The initial focus, the starting point, was on a new film adaptation. This film was directed and co-written by Justin Baldoni. The project had nothing to do with Marvel or the broader superhero universe. Blake Lively, cast in a key role, was expected to bring her well-known charm and her level of acting and sophistication to the project. Early glimpses from the set, combined with encouraging remarks from both Baldoni and Lively, offered no indication that there were any problems whatsoever. It seemed like another polished and professional Hollywood production. As the news of the Reynolds issue hit, people took a very close look. Focus quickly turned to Reynolds. In the first few weeks, no one really knew the extent to which Reynolds was involved in these issues. Did Lively invoke his name, make references to his name, or even use his influence without his knowledge or consent? Or was he actively supporting her in some way? A handful of leaked texts made it appear that Reynolds might have had some degree of awareness, if not a direct involvement, in Lively's off-screen maneuvering. There were text messages that were released. The comedic star, known for his quick wit, made no public comment. His silence only further fueled the public's curiosity.
But I was like just tracking him down, and then I finally got to read the script, and the script was a thriller. So that was a little confusing to me because he's like such a funny director.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know, what is this? Because the script is definitely like a twisting, turning, intense thriller. Is it a comedy or a thriller? And he said, yes. So then every day on set, I was like, is today a comedy or is it a thriller?
It's a good mix
and
of
it's
both.
like, yeah, it's like really kind of over the top and campy and trashy and fun and like, you know, kind of like my outfit, I guess.
Meanwhile, the drama became more convoluted and far more complicated when Blake's legal counsel publicly resigned. The lawyer, in a stunning move, claimed that her version, the narrative that had been presented to the public, was inconsistent with the documentation they had reviewed and with other evidence. Industry veterans considered this move to be practically unprecedented. Attorneys usually exit quietly and do not take sides, offering very careful statements. Marvel, quietly observing the situation from the sidelines, was growing increasingly anxious. Reynolds had become an essential element in their larger cinematic plans. Deadpool, once considered a niche character, a fringe addition to the superhero library, had become a full-fledged cultural phenomenon. The Deadpool film series, with its irreverent humor and its willingness to embrace R-rated storytelling, had, for better or for worse, transformed the franchise. To many, Reynolds and Deadpool were inseparable. His comedic timing aligned so precisely with the character. It was difficult to imagine anyone else in the role. This had to be considered. As the controversy ballooned, Marvel had to confront a difficult question. If Reynolds was indeed tied to, or even complicit in, an episode of public manipulation, and, potentially, had contributed to a public relations issue, would that overshadow the comedic hero that fans adored? It was something that had to be looked at, and the company had to take it seriously. As speculation about Lively's off-screen ambitions and maneuvers mounted, she doubled down by filing a series of official complaints against Justin Baldoni. She referenced instances of alleged discomfort on the set, moments when Baldoni's remarks about her postpartum physique had felt hurtful, and also referred to lapses in safety protocols for close contact scenes, all allegations which, if proven to be true, would, of course, have reflected poorly on Baldoni and could have been seen as justification for her earlier expressions of frustration with the production and the director. But once again, further text logs as they came to light showed that the context was far more nuanced.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
Justin, it would turn out, had apparently been very mindful of her comfort, referencing his own back problems as part of the reason why he was so sensitive to any physical strain. The idea of a dismissive or careless director just didn't align with these messages. There was a great deal of concern. Still, and it's important to note, the major shock and aftershock for Reynolds arrived when even more unfiltered data emerged, data that, for the most part, seemed to indicate that Lively had been referencing Reynolds. What had taken place? The revelations and the text messages showed that Lively had been not just casually referencing him, but often directing him to make certain calls or issue veiled warnings. The text messages spoke volumes. The idea of a comedic star beloved for his friendly public persona, possibly participating in and potentially assisting in strategic pressure campaigns and maneuvers behind the scenes, alarmed the Marvel executives. They scrutinized Reynolds' contract and initiated an internal review. Did the alleged manipulations and actions tie back to Marvel resources or to the promotional channels that were used for Deadpool?
The idea that people think that they know you, I think because of how intrusive media is these days, people care so much more about your personal life than they do your work, and if you aren't open with your personal life, then they just make it up for you and share it for you.
The revelation that truly rattled the studio was the rumor that Reynolds might have used his star power and professional ties, particularly his ties with the Marvel Universe, to tilt the playing field. Was there something wrong? The suspicion was that in exchange for exclusive content or early scoops about upcoming Deadpool developments, certain media personalities might run stories casting Baldoni as an overbearing director. None of this was confirmed at the time, but the chatter grew louder. And soon, Marvel found itself in crisis management mode. The brand, famed for forging positive relationships with its leading actors, very rarely engaged in public spats, but they felt compelled to launch an investigation. This all seemed to hint at the seriousness of the situation. This slow simmering tension and the investigation exploded when Marvel announced that Reynolds would be removed from any upcoming Deadpool projects. The news was met with shock. Many fans assumed that any issues or problems might be addressed internally, perhaps with a quiet penalty or even a renegotiation of the contract. But a complete and outright firing of Reynolds? That, by all accounts, seemed unthinkable. Overnight, the headlines screamed the news to the world. Ryan Reynolds dropped by Marvel, Deadpool franchise in turmoil. The question on everybody's mind was, did Blake's actions doom Reynolds' career?
That ended up actually getting picked up and doing very well, and I was one of two people, maybe. And then I get a call from my managers and my agent. They were both on the line, which means it's something serious. Either you got the job or there's something wrong. And they said, so you were the choice, but the network said that your eyebrows would be too distracting.
What? Oh, no.
And then they went like, so what can we do about your eyebrows?
For a star who was recognized as the comedic linchpin, the cornerstone of a now iconic role, this was the harshest blow imaginable. Insiders said, and would later describe, that was the moment Ryan Reynolds lost it. The anger, the frustration, was obvious. The man Reynolds, who had poured his heart into the role, and by most accounts, had helped Deadpool become a success. There was no doubt that Ryan Reynolds had come to be a linchpin, and more than just a leading man. He embodied a brand synergy that resonated with millions. Before we move on, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.